My name is Stonsey. I make the audiobooks. It's not that difficult to record them together. Hello everyone, my name's Stonsey Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonsey. Today we are reading pages 48 to 64, chapters 4 to 5. I totally didn't just try to memorize that or anything. The screen's in front of me and I'm totally not playing Cookie Clicker. 48 to 60? Is that? I mean, we're reading... Oh, yeah, 64. Okay, because this is the last episode of part 1, so, yeah. Alrighty then, so, without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 4, Learner's Permit to Kill. Forget what you think you know about Scythe. Leave behind your preconceived notions. Your education begins today. Citra could not believe she was actually going through with this. What secret self-destructive part of herself had asserted will over her had possessed her to accept the apprenticeship. No, there was no backing out. Yesterday, on the third day of the new year, Scythe Faraday had come to their apartment and given a year's immunity to her father and brother. He had several months with mothers, so their immunity would all expire at the same time. Of course, if Citra was chosen to be a full Scythe, their immunity would become permanent. Their parents were tearful when she left. Citra wondered were their tears of sorrow, joy, or relief, perhaps a combination of all three. We know you'll do great things in the world, her father said, and she'd wondered what bringing death could be considered great. Do not be so arrogant as to think of a license to glean. The license is mine and mine alone. At most you have, shall we say, a learner's permit. I will, however, require at least one of you to present at each of my gleanings. If I ask you to assist, you will. Citra unceremoniously withdrew from school and said goodbye to friends in awkward little conversations. It's not like I won't be around, it just won't be in school anymore. But who is she kidding? Accepting apprenticeship put her on the outside of an impenetrable wall. Was both demoralizing yet heartening to know that life would go on without her. And it occurred to her that being a Scythe was like being living the dead, with the world and just put apart from it, just a witness of the comings and goings of others. We are above the law, and what does not mean we live in defiance of it. Our position demands a level of morality beyond the rule of law. We must strive for incorruptibility, and must access our motives on a daily basis. While she did not wear a ring, Citra had been given an armband to identify her as a Scythe's apprentice. And Rowan had one too. Bright green bands bearing the curved blade of the farmer's scythe above the unblinking eye. The double symbol of the scythe hood, that symbol would become a tattoo in the arm of the chosen apprentice. Not that anyone would ever see the tattoo for scythes are never seen in public without their robes. Citra had to tell herself that there was an out. She had to fail to perform. She could be a lousy apprentice. She could sabotage herself so completely that honorable Scythe Faraday would be forced to choose Rowan and return her to her family in the end of the year. The problem was that Citra was very bad at doing things half-assed. It would be much harder for her to fail than to succeed. It would tolerate any romantic notions between the two of you, so banish the thought from your mind now. Citra had looked over to Rowan, and the Scythe said that, and Rowan had shrugged. Not a problem, he said, which irritated Citra. At the very least, you could have voiced some minor disappointment. Yeah, Citra said. No hope of that, with or without the rule. Rowan had gritted that, which made her even more annoyed. You shall study history, the great philosophers, the sciences. You will come to understand the nature of life and what it means to human before you could permanently charge a taking of life. So you also study all forms of killcraft and become experts. Like Citra, Rowan found himself unsettled by this decision to take this on, but he was not going to show it, especially not to Citra, and in spite of the boss attitude he showed her, he was in fact attracted to her. But he knew even before the Scythe forbade some the pursuit would not end well. They were adversaries after all. Like Citra, Rowan had stood beside Scythe Faraday as the man held out his ring to each member of his family, offering them immunity. His brothers, sisters, half-siblings, grandma, and her all-too-perfect husband, who Rowan suspected might actually be a bot, in turn knelt respectfully and kissed the ring, transmitting the DNA to the worldwide immunity database in the Scythe's own special cloud, separate from a part of the Thunderhead. The rule was that all members of the apprentice household would receive immunity for 1 year, and there were 19 people in Rowan's spawning household. The mother would mix feelings, because now no one would move out for at least a year, to make sure their immunity would become permanent once Rowan received the Scythe's ring, if he got the ring. The only glitch that had been when the ring vibrated, giving off a low alarm, refusing immunity to his grandmother's new husband, because he was a bot after all. You shall live as I do, modesty and subsiding on the goodwill of others. You will make no more than you need, and waste nothing. People will attempt to buy your friendship. They will lavish things upon you, accept nothing but the barest of human necessities. Faraday had brought Rowan and Citra to his home to begin their new lives. It was a small bungalow in a run-down part of the city that Rowan hadn't even known existed. People playing at poverty, he had told them, and because no one was impoverished anymore. Austerity was a choice, for there were only those who shunned the plenty of the post-mortal world. Faraday's home was a Spartan, little decoration, unimpressive furniture. Rowan's room was a space for only a bed and a small dresser. Citra at least had a window, but the view was of a brick wall. I would not tolerate childish pastimes for vapid communications with friends. Commitment to this life means living behind your old life as fully as possible. When, a year from now, I choose between you, the unchosen one can return to his or her former life easily enough. But for now, consider that life a part of your past. Once they were settled in, he didn't allow them to brood over circumstances. As soon as Rowan had unpacked his bags, the Scythe announced that they were going to the market. To glean, Rowan asked, a little more sick of the prospect. No, to get food for the two of you, Faraday told them, unless you prefer to eat my leftovers. Citra smirked and Rowan for asking, and if she hadn't been worrying about that herself. I liked you a lot more before I knew you, he told her. You still don't know me, she answered, which was true. When she sighed for the first time since their night at the opera, she offered up something more than attitude. We're being forced to live together and forced to compete at something neither of us wants to compete over. I know it's not your fault, but it doesn't exactly put us in a friendly place. I know, Rowan admitted. After all, Citra didn't know all the tension between them. But that still doesn't mean we can't have each other's backs. She didn't answer them. She didn't expect her to. It was a seed that he wanted to plant. Over the past 2 months, he had learned that no one had his back anymore. Perhaps no one ever did. His friends had pulled away. He was a footnote in his own family. There was only one person who now shared his plight. It was Citra. And if they couldn't find a way to trust each other, then what did they have beyond a learner's permit to kill? The greatest achievement of the human race was not conquering death, it was ending government. Back in the days when the world's digital network was called the cloud, people thought giving too much power to artificial intelligence would be a very bad idea. Cautionary tales abound in every form of media. The machines were always the enemy, but when did the cloud evolve in the thunderhead, sparking the consciousness, or at least a remarkable facsimile? In stark contrast to people's fears, the thunderhead did not seize power. Instead, it was people who became to realize that it was far better suited to run things than politicians. In those days before the thunderhead, human arrogance, self-interest, endless infighting determined the rule of law. Inefficient, imperfect, vulnerable to all forms of corruption. But the thunderhead was incorruptible. Not only that, but the algorithms were built from the full sum of human knowledge. All the time and money wasted on political posturing and the lives lost in wars. The populations abused by despots. All gone in the moment of the thunderhead was handed power. Of course, the politicians, dictators, and warmongers weren't happy. But their voices, which had always seemed so loud and intimidating, were suddenly insignificant. The emperor not only had no clothes, turns out he had no testicles either. The thunderhead quite literally knew everything. When and where to build roads, how to eliminate waste in food distribution and thus end hunger, how to protect the environment from ever-growing human population. It created jobs, it clothed the poor, established the world code. Now, for the first time in history, law was no longer a shadow of justice, it was justice. The thunderhead gave us a perfect world, the utopia that our ancestors will only dream of as a reality. Only one thing the thunderhead was not given authority over, the scythedom. When it was decided that people needed to die in order to ease the tide of population growth, it was also decided that there must be a responsibility of humans. Bridge repair and urban planning would be handled by Thunderhead, but the taking of life was an act of conscience and consciousness. Since it cannot be proven that the Thunderhead had either, the Scythe was born. It did not regret the decision, but I often wonder if the Thunderhead would have done a better job. From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curie. Chapter 5. But I'm only 96. While a trip to the market would have been ordinary, everyday occurrence, Citra found that food shopping with the Scythe carried its own basket of crazy. The moment the market doors parted for them, and the three of them stepped in, the dread around them was enough to raise goose flesh in Citra's arms. Nothing so blatant as gasps or screams. People were used to Scythes passing through their daily lives. It was silent but pervasive. If they had been accidentally strolled in some other theatrical stage and followed the performance. Citra noticed that, in general, there are three types of people. 1. The deniers. There were people who forged on and pretended the Scythe wasn't there. It wasn't just a matter of ignoring them. It was actively, willfully denying his presence. It reminded Citra of the very small children would play hide and seek, covering their own eyes to hide, thinking that they couldn't see you, when you couldn't see them. 2. The escape artists. These are people who ran away but tried to make it look like they weren't. They suddenly remembered they forgot to get eggs, began chasing after a running child that didn't actually exist. One shopper abandoned a cart, mumbling about a wallet he must have left at home. Despite the obvious bulge in his back pocket, he hurried out and didn't come back. And 3. The Scythe's pets. These were people who went out of their way to engage the Scythe and offer him something with secret, not so secret hope that they might grant him immunity. or at least glean the person to their right instead of them some day. Here, Your Honor, take my melon. It's bigger, I insist. These people, though that much such sociophatic behavior would make a Scythe want to glean them even more. Not that Citra would want a level of death penalty for such a thing, but if she were ever given a choice between some innocent bystander and someone who has been nauseatingly obsequious about their produce, she'd choose the melon giver. There was one shopper who didn't seem to fit the other three profiles. A woman who actually seemed pleased to see him. "Good morning, Scythe Faraday," she said when she passed her near the deli counter, then looked at Citra and Rowan, curious. "Your niece and nephew?" "Hardly," he said, with a bit of disdain in his voice of relatives. "No idea who no interest in knowing about. I've taken apprentices." Her eyes widened a bit. "Such a thing," she said in a way that made it unclear whether she thought it good or bad idea. "Do they have a penchant for the work?" "Not in the slightest." He nodded. "Well then, I guess it's all right. You know what they say, have not the hand of the blade with abandon." Scythe smiled. "I hope I can introduce them to your strudel sometime." She nodded at the two of them. "Well, that goes without saying." After she had moved on, Scythe Faraday explained that she was a longtime friend. "She cooks for me from time to time, and she works at the coroner's office. In my line of work, it's always good to have a friend there." "Do you grant her immunity?" Citra asked. Rowan thought the Scythe might be indignant at the question, but instead answered, "The Scythedom frowns upon those who play favorites. But I've found that I can grant her immunity on alternate years without raising a red flag. What if another Scythe gleans her during the off years? Then I shall attend her funeral with heartfelt grief," he told them. As the shop, Citra chose some snacks, and the Scythe eyed dubiously. "Are these really necessary?" he asked. "Is anything really necessary?" Citra responded. Rowan found it amusing how Citra gave the Scythe attitude, but it worked, and he let her keep the chips. Rowan tried to be more practical, picking out staples like eggs, flours, and various proteins and side dishes to go with them. "Don't get chickenoid tenders," Citra said, looking at the choices. "Trust me, my mother's a food synthesis engineer. That stuff's not actual chicken. They grow it from a petri dish." Rowan held up another bag of frozen protein. "How about this? Sea steak? Sure, if you like plankton pressed into meat shapes." "Well then, maybe you should pick your own meals instead of grabbing sweets and snacks." "Are you always this boring?" she asked. "Didn't he say we have to live as he lives? I don't think cookie dough ice cream is part of his lifestyle." She sneered at him, but switched out of the flavor for vanilla. As they continued to shop, it was Citra who first noticed two suspicious-looking teens who seemed to be tracking them through the store. Lingering behind them, trying to look like they were just shopping. They're probably unsavories, people who found enjoyment in activities that bordered on the fringe of the law. Sometimes unsavories actually broke the law in minor ways, although most lost interest eventually, because they were thought by the Thunderbird and reprimanded by peace officers. There were some troublesome offenders who were tweaked by shock nanites in their blood, just powerful enough to deter any scoffing of the law, and if that didn't work, you had your own personal peace officer 24/7. Citra had an uncle like that. He called the officer and the guardian angel and eventually married her. She tugged on Rowan's sleeve, bringing the unsavories to his attention, but not Scythe Faraday's. "Why do you think they're following us?" "They probably think there's going to be a gleaning and they wanted to watch," suggests Rowan, which seemed likely theory. As it turned out, however, they had other motives. As the three of them waited at the checkout line, one of the unsavory grabbed Scythe Faraday's hand and kissed the ring. Before he could stop them, the ring began to glow red, indicating his immunity. "Ha!" said the unsavory, puffing up in strategic triumph. "I got immunity for a year, and you can't undo it. I know the rules." Scythe Faraday was unfazed. "Yes, good for you," he said. "You have 365 days of immunity." And then looking at the side and said, "I'll be seeing you on day 366. Suddenly, the teen's smug expression dropped. As if all the muscle that held up his face failed. He stuttered a bit. His friend pulled him away. They ran out of the store as fast as they could. "Well paid," said the other man in line. He offered to pay for the Scythe's groceries, which was pointless because Scythe got their groceries for free anyway. "Will you really track them down a year from now?" Rowan asked. The Scythe grabbed a roll of breath mints in the rack. "Not worth my time. Besides, I've already meted out as punishment. He'll be worried about getting gleaned all year. A lesson for both of you. A Scythe doesn't have to follow through on a threat for it to be effective." Then a few minutes later, they were bouldering the grocery bags of the public car. The Scythe looked across the parking lot. "There," he said. "You see that woman? The one who just dropped her purse?" "Yeah," said Rowan. Scythe Faraday pulled out his phone, aimed the camera at the woman, and instant information about her began to scroll on the screen. Naturally, 96 years of age and physically 34. Mother of 9. Data and management technician for a small shipping company. "She's off to work after she puts away her groceries," the Scythe told them. "This afternoon we will go to her place of business and glean her." Citra drew an audible breath. Not quite a gasp, but close. Rowan focused on his breathing and didn't telegraph his emotions the way Citra had. "Why?" he asked. "Why her?" The Scythe gave him a cool look. "Why not her?" "You had a reason for gleaning old Whitnock?" "Who?" Citra asked. "A kid I knew at school. When I first met her honorable Scythe here." Faraday sighed. "Fatalities in parking lots made up 1.25% of all accidental deaths during the last days of the age of mortality. Last night, I decided I would choose today's subject from the parking lot." So, all this time you were shopping, you knew it would end like this? Rowan said. I feel bad for you, said Citra. Even when you're food shopping, death is hiding right behind the milk. It never hides. The Scythe told him the word weariness was hard to describe, nor does it sleep. You'll learn that soon enough. But it wasn't something either of them was eager to learn. That afternoon, just as the Scythe had said, they went to the shipping company where the woman worked, and they watched just as Rowan had watched Cole's gleaning. But today it was a little more than mere observation. I have chosen for you a life-terminating pill, Scythe Faraday told the speechless, tremendous woman. She reached into his robe and produced a small pill of the glass vial. I will not activate it until you bite it, so you can choose the moment. You need to swallow it, just bite it. Death will be instantaneous and painless. Her head shook at the bobblehead doll. May I call my children? Scythe Faraday sadly shook his head. No, I'm sorry, but we shall pass on any message you allow them. But would it hurt to allow her to say goodbye? Citra asked. He put up his hand to silence her and handed the woman a pen and piece of paper. Hey, I say all you need is to say in the letter. I promise we shall deliver it. We waited outside her office. Scythe Faraday seemed to have infinite patience. What if she opens a window and decides to splat? Rowan asked. Then her life will end on schedule. It would be a more unpleasant choice, but the ultimate result is the same. The woman didn't choose to splat. Instead, she let them back into the room, politely handed the envelope to Scythe Faraday, and sat down at her desk. I'm ready. Then Scythe Faraday did something they didn't expect. He turned the row and handed him the vial. Please place the pill in Miss Becker's mouth. Who? Me? Faraday didn't answer. She simply held the vial out, waiting for Rowan to take it. Rowan knew he wasn't officially performing the gleaning, but it would be intermediary. The thought was deliberating. He swallowed, tasting bitterness of the pill were in his own mouth. He refused to take it. Scythe Faraday gave him a moment more, then turned to Citra. You then. Citra shook her head. Scythe Faraday smiled. Very good, he told them. I was testing you. I would not have been pleased if either of you were eager to administer death. At the word death, the woman looked with a shuddering breath. Scythe Faraday opened the vial and carefully removed the pill and the triangular and the dark green coating. Who knew death would arrive so small? But I'm only 96, the woman said. We know, the Scythe told her. Now please, open your mouth. Remember, it's not a swallow. You must bite it. She opened her mouth and did as she told, and Scythe Faraday pulled a pill from her tongue. She closed her mouth and didn't bite it right away. She looked at them, each of them in turn. Rowan, then Citra, then finally set her gaze on Scythe Faraday. Then the slightest crunch, and she went limp. Simple as that, but not so simple at all. Citra's eyes were moist, and she pressed her lips together. As much as Rowan tried to control his emotions, his breath came out uneasily, and he felt lightheaded. Then Scythe Faraday turned to Citra. Check for a pulse, please. Who, me? The Scythe was patient. He didn't ask again. The man never asked the thing twice. Then he continued to hesitate. He finally said, This time it's not a test. I actually want you to confirm with me that she has no pulse. Citra reached up with a hand to the woman's neck. Other side, the Scythe told her. He pressed her fingers to the woman's carotid artery, just beneath her ear. No pulse. Scythe Faraday, satisfied, Scythe Faraday stood. So that's it? Citra said. What were you expecting? Said Rowan. A chorus of angels? Citra threw him an half-hearted glare. But I mean, it's so uneventful. Rowan knew what she meant. Rowan had experienced an electrical jolt that had taken his schoolmate's life. It was awful, but somehow this is worse. But now, do we just leave her like this? Best not to linger, Scythe Faraday said, tapping something out on his phone. I've notified the coroner to come collect Miss Becker's body. Then she took the letter he'd written and slipped it in one of many pockets in his robe. You shall present the letter to her family at the funeral. Wait, said Citra. We're going to her funeral? I thought you said it was best not to linger, said Rowan. Lingering and paying respects are two different things. I attend the funerals of all the people I glean. Is that a Scythe rule? Rowan asked. Never even been to a funeral. No, it's my rule, he told them. It's called common decency. Then they left, Rowan and Citra both avoiding eye contact with the dead woman's co-workers. This, both of them realized, was their first initiation rite. This was the moment where their apprenticeship have truly began. Goodness. That was... definitely an interesting first rite of passage. It was also the first part of the book. So today we read pages 48 to 64. Next time we'll be reading pages 65 to 85. I don't know why the heck that says 67. That's strange. 65 to 85. Chapters 6 to 7 or 06 to 05. And part 2. A lot of changing this episode. Very, very short part. Only 3 episodes. Next part is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes. Part 3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes. Part 4 is 1, 2, 2 episodes. So not the shortest, but definitely the second shortest, with part 2 being the second longest and part 3 being the definite longest. But yeah, it's time for reading corner of the day, doing it up Stonsey's way, bop. Today we are reading about the Samoyed. It sounds like I'm saying chamoy, but nope, the Samoyed. I mean, very fluffy. Looks like Toby Fox a little bit here and there. You know what I mean? But before I can make fun of or rightly say it looks like something else to anything, I should learn of its history. Not only does it make me look smarter and more credible when I talk, but it also makes me look more intelligent in front of my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, or heck, maybe even my school teacher. I don't know if anyone talks to their teachers. Everyone just kind of on their phones all the time. But whatever. Intelligence doesn't necessarily lie in just knowing things. It also falls in knowing and teaching others these things. Because, yeah, some of the most intelligent people you ever meet are teachers and doctors. Though there are some dumb teachers and there's definitely some dumb doctors. The history of the Samoyed is that the nomadic Samoyed people, for whom the Samoyed dog is named, came to northeastern Siberia from Central Asia. They depended upon herds of the reindeer for food and had to keep on the move in order the reindeer would not find sufficient food for themselves. They also depended upon strong, hardy Spitz dogs and a herd of reindeer and guard them against the fierce predators of the Arctic. They occasionally helped to hunt bears and tow boats and sledges. These dogs lived as a part of the family and hide tents of their people. One of their jobs was to keep the children warm in bed. The first Samoyeds came from England in the late 1800s, but not all these early imports are pure white of the breed is known for today. One of these dogs is presented to Queen of Alexandria, who did much to promote the breed. Descendants of the Queen's dogs can still be found in modern pedigrees. In 1906, the first Samoyed came to America, originally the gift of Russia's Grand Duke Nicholas. Meanwhile, the breed is becoming a popular sled dog because it was more tractable than other sledding breeds. In the early 1900s, Samoyeds formed part of the sledge team in expedition to Antarctica and shared the triumph of reaching the South Pole. The breed's exploits, combined with the glistening good looks, soon won the public's attention in America, and popularity had grown tremendously since the Second World War. Although the once nomadic Samoyed people have long since settled in one place, the breed had created a journey around the world. Wow, an adventuring type dog. Gotta love them. They're very cute. But what's the temperament? Are they good with kids and will they keep them warm during the winter? Well, they're gentle and faithful. The Samoyed makes a good companion of the child or person of any age. It's called a bonded family dog. It's amiable with strangers, other pets, and usually other dogs. It's calm indoors, but it's clever, sometimes mischievous breed, needs daily physical and mental exercise. If allowed to become bored, it will dig and bark. It's independent and often stubborn. It is willing to please and responsive to its owner's wishes. It may tend to herd children. So it's a watcher and a protector. Interesting. But what's the upkeep? How do I keep my Samoyed good and in check? Well, the Samoyed is active and needs a good workout every day, either in the form of a long walk or jog, a vigorous play session. It likes to pull and herd, and it loves cold weather. It can live outdoors in temperate to cold climates. It much prefers to live indoors with the human family. Its thick coat needs brushing and combing 2 to 3 times a week, daily when shedding. Now, if you're a child, please cover your ears. If you're an adult or a teenager who wants to or owns a Samoyed breed, please listen in as we're going to be talking about the health. The major concerns are CHD, minor concerns are gastric torsion, cataracts, and hyperthyroidism. They're occasionally seen with PRA and diabetes. The suggested tests are for the hip, eye, thyroid, and DNA or PRA, and lifespan is from 10 to 12 years. Now, imagine you don't see that picture of that dog in front of you. What's the form? What's the function? Are they slightly longer than tall? The Samoyed combines strength, agility, and dignity and grace, and the general spits out slightly longer than it is tall. It is nonetheless compact and a strong muscular body that is able to combine power, speed, agility, and endurance. It is quick, agile, stride with a good reach and drive. Double coat is heavy and weather resistant. The undercoat is soft and thick, whereas the outer coat is straight and harsh. Standing straight out from its body, it's glistening in the silver sheen. The expression is animated with the characteristic Samoyed smile created by the upcurved corners of his mouth. Oh. Now, for the final part of today's episode is the tier list. 5 is the best, 4 is better, 3 is average, 2 is worse, and 1 is the worst unless it comes to grooming, which this dog is definitely not winning. Energy level Exercise requirements and friendliness towards dogs are out of 3. Playfulness, affection level, and friendliness towards strangers are out of 4. Friendliness towards other pets is out of 5. Ease of training is out of 2, so a little higher than average, or a little lower than average. Watchdog abilities out of 5, with a trade-off of protection abilities out of 1. Grooming requirements is out of 3, which is awful. Cold tolerance is out of 5, with a trade-off of heat tolerance being out of 1, which makes sense, as this is a winter dog. The healthy weight of a male Samoyed should be 45 to 65 pounds, and a female Samoyed should be 35 to 50 pounds. The height of the average male Samoyed is 21 to 23.5 inches, and a female is 19 to 21 inches, and it's not feet, or else we'd be living in a world of giants. Not giant, just derpy. The next breed of the dog that we'll be learning about is the one you'll be learning about in the next episode. So, hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Hope you guys enjoy part 2 of the book, which we'll be reading next time. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Oh my god, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I haven't been seeing the picture. That's so much shedding. Oh my gosh. Alright. Bye-bye.